Okay, so let me start the presentation as well. All right, so hello everyone. Let's proceed with another Phyllis Wallet demo. Our agenda will be pretty classic. First, we're going to discuss like Phyllis Wallet development transparency and how we can track our progress, right? Then we're going to dive into the details of previous 1 month of the development, like what goals team has settled and what results we have been achieving. We're also going to discuss some issues which happened during last months, and we will cover into the details the most demanding feature or the most demanding update which is coming, which is basically multi-asset and new networks in Phyllis Wallet. And lastly, in this section, we will also have the demo of mobile applications, and specifically, we will take a look on the staking analytics in iOS application. And we will finalize this meeting by basically showing you the next plans and priorities and overall release plan for the upcoming weeks. So let's start, shall we? So as usual, you can always visit our website, which has roadmap, development status, links to our GitHub repositories, because Phyllis Wallet is completely open source and transparent. And you can also track our, let's say, design changes using the Figma link here of high fidelity prototypes. So you can take a glance of upcoming features always by visiting this Figma. Join also our community groups like in Telegram, in Element. Also follow us on Twitter and subscribe on the YouTube. And I have also amazing announcement. We're going to create the Phyllis Wallet wiki pretty much soon. We already started to fill it because lots of collaboration partners and lots of users are interested to take a look on overall features and how they look like before they're going to install the wallet. So it's completely understandable. So we decided to just create the wiki to help them. All right, so let's proceed with the sprint review. So as for goals, so 1 month ago, we have set out 3 major goals. First one was to make Android catch up for the iOS version, because due to several reasons, we had Android version being a little bit delayed comparing to iOS one due to some vacations and onboarding of new members. But basically, we have these features which are almost ready to be released on Android, which are refactoring of your validators. So it now has a better user interface, countdowns for new era pending rewards and staking requests, guiding confirmation screens, and finally the history, because lots of Android users were waiting for this feature for quite a long time. So we're going to wrap up these releases finally and release it in Google Play. I think we're going to push it today, so it should be available early next week. The next goal was to basically develop staking analytics. Staking analytics was in development for a while now, and we finally were able to basically proceed to finishing this feature. The last point is about UX/UI internal testing and acceptance, and we will see the results on the next slide. And the third point is basically the multi-asset and new networks proposal scope, which we have decided to basically start with the most complex tasks, which are to basically teach Phyllis Wallet to communicate with multiple networks and to understand them, because all parachains in a Polkadot and Kusama ecosystem are basically unique, and mobile applications such as Phyllis Wallet needs to understand how to communicate with them. So we have been working on basically improving our networking of the application. Also, what we need to improve in terms of this proposal is basically how we store the data of the user on mobile device, and especially secure account storage, because accounts going to be slightly changed for the user and for the application. So we need to make sure that we will carefully migrate them from old model to the new model, and also that we will carefully migrate and apply all the changes we needed. And the last point here is that we are still working on refining and designing new mockups for the new features in the multi-asset and new networks scope of work, right? So let's see what we have been what we have achieved basically. So we can see that most of the tasks were completed, all right? However, for example, for staking analytics, once we finished the development of them, we understood that it's not matching the quality level of we need. Thus, we decided to apply several iterations of changes. And in fact, we are still doing them. So our understanding that most likely the next week it should be available on iOS devices with these changes which we are currently applying. As for multi-asset proposal, the work have been pretty much steady, right? We have been successfully integrated the most complex part, which basically improving to the networking of the application and understanding how to communicate with different blockchains, right? And we have been working with this data storage migration and secure account storage migration. So basically, it allowed us to finally proceed with further implementing of next features in this proposal. So like the shiny user interface and so on. And regarding the user interface, we have been working on designing the mockups. I would say that we are in pretty good state. There are still some refinements required, and I will show you the mockups today. But for the next, let's say, 3 weeks, we are pretty good with the mockups, so we can proceed with implementing those interfaces on mobile side. All right, so let's move further. So let's take a look on our roadmap because it would be easier to synchronize about the releases. So currently we have just started the multi-token token support proposal, right? And for iOS, we have been releasing version 1.9.3 with Mortal Extrinsic support. I believe it was in the beginning of August. And we have been working on 3 directions, basically, on both iOS and Android side. So first direction was general improvements and fixes related to the user feedback to our application and some runtime changes in Kusama. The second direction was about the analytics, which we already mentioned, right? And the third one is, of course, multi-asset support and new networks. And you can basically see the release dates of all these versions and basically the progress of them, right? So yeah, you can also see that basically on the roadmap, we have the multi-tokens support proposal, the Moonbeam Moonriver integration proposal, which is kind of special because Moonbeam and Moonriver networks will be using Ethereum cryptography, which means that it would be some sort of extra work for us, which we agreed to do with Moonbeam and Moonriver team. So yeah, that's the roadmap. Let's move towards. So let's talk about the multi-assets and the new networks user interface in particular. So our goal is basically to provide a seamless experience for our users, which means that we need to have one screen to access all the tokens, right? However, there might be some users who wants to play with the testnet tokens or who has the different tokens in different networks. So we would like to basically mark some testnet tokens as a basically tested. And also in terms of the Kusama token, there might be a case that there is a Kusama token located in the different networks. So we're going to mark it as well. So that's just an example how it will look like in the user interface. And the next slide is much more interesting one. So in order to provide seamless experience for the users, it can be a little bit trickier in Polkadot and Kusama ecosystem, and there are some reasons. So if you will take a look on other applications in Polkadot and Kusama networks, usually what you have is that this particular application is connecting to one particular network. And there are some reasons because of it, because the app itself needs to maintain the complex connection to this network, right? It needs to understand all these things related to basically the runtime and the features which has this network, right? And overall, this networking might be pretty much complex. And if you will try to add the second network in the same application, the things might go wrong because once again, different networks has different runtime logic and so on. So it's pretty complex. And what we have been able to achieve in Phyllis Wallet is not only a possibility to connect in multiple networks, but also to maintain this connection seamlessly, so that if, for example, something wrong with, let's say, Halo network, right? The user experience won't be interrupted. So users will see that something is going on with Halo network, and that's it. The pretty much REST features would be untouched, right? And the second direction in this flow is basically how you need to display all of that to the user. So what happens if user load the app at the first time? What happens if user load the app from the background? Or what happens if basically user close up and open it again, and so on. And if there are some connection errors with certain network or complete unavailability of the network, for example, right? So yeah, sorry for cat noise. So we have put lots of efforts to basically think about all these use cases and how user interface should basically display them to make sure that the users will have seamless experience and that everything would be basically top notch, right? So you can raise your expectations about it already in Phyllis Wallet and you won't be disappointed. Right. Another major point related to multi-asset and new networks update is how accounts would be changed, right? Because once again, if you will use existing applications in the ecosystem, for example, Polkadot.js, you have one account and basically you need to switch networks all the time. And what happens if you basically have one account and want to have a connection immediately to all the networks? That's a bit tricky because now you have like one key to rule them all, right? However, user needs to understand that. And that's pretty much major change from what we have in Phyllis Wallet right now, where each account has a connection to certain network, right? For example, you have Polkadot accounts, you have Kusama accounts, you might have Western accounts, and so on. And now you will just have accounts which can connect to all the networks, right? Which means that we should be able to communicate it towards the users. That's why when user will update the app, we'll have like a small tutorial about what's new in Phyllis Wallet, right? We're still working on the, let's say, the explanations, the format, the graphics, and so on. But our goal is to maximize the knowledge sharing with the user so that user will be able to understand the new features, what's changed, and how they can benefit from it. So yeah, that's also the major point with this update. All right. And finally, for the multi-asset and new networks, I have that slide, which basically shows you what networks you can expect in the first update, right? And you can see all of them listed. But you can just have a general rule which we use in Phyllis Wallet that if this particular network is using the default substrate palette for balances, which means that we can support this token, it means that yes, it would be relatively easy for us to add support for this network. So long story short, our goal is to basically support as many substrate networks as possible if they're complying to this rule, right? There are some additions to that. For example, as I told, that Moonriver and Moonbeam networks has a different cryptography, which means that we need to require an extra development effort to support them. But we already negotiated with Moonbeam Foundation and we received a dedicated grant to support the network. So that allowed us to basically include this support as well in the upcoming update. But overall goal for us is to provide this seamless experience for the users who participated in the crowd loans. Thus, they have some tokens which are basically connected with their accounts, but Phyllis Wallet for now is not showing them, right? And our goal is to basically show all the tokens which user can potentially have. So yeah, that's about the networks. And if you don't see the network which you like or the network which you would like to see in the Phyllis Wallet, then feel free to ask us in the Telegram group and yeah, we will basically touch base with the team responsible for this network, and we will see what we can do. All right, the next part is staking analytics. What you can see now is basically an updated version of the mockups, which we created after we have reviewed the working version of analytics in iOS. So we changed lots of things actually, but there are some key features which we want to provide to the users. For example, they need to understand the rewards, right, for the selected time period, like 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, or like the complete period which they were staking. They also need to have a tool to see the average rewards which they're receiving, once again, across all these time periods, right? And the third part here, that they need to have access to the rewards history in this period. So if they will select 1 week, we should show the all rewards which are dedicated to this particular week. If we change to 1 month, then the all rewards dedicated to this month should be displayed. So yeah, we want to give more opportunities for the user to analyze and to understand their staking rewards, because right now it's quite a journey for users to understand their staking performance, right? It's not available in most of the apps, and users require to use like block explorers and other tools to basically understand what's going on with the staking. We also want to provide the tools to analyze the stake amount itself, like how it was changing across the time, right? What was the events that changed the stake? Like, was it like staking reward, or when user changed the staking amount by themselves, like staked more or unstaked some tokens and so on. So we decided to provide this information as well, once again, with a chart and with a history. And finally, we decided to provide a tool for the nominators to understand the validators' performance which they have, right? So they would be able to see using the pie chart basically the distribution across the validators and with which validators they were active in staking, right? So that nominators can basically understand their top performers, let's say. We also have this second chart here regarding the rewards, and that should be able to explain users like the reward statuses and distribution across the validators. So with which validators they made how many tokens from the staking, right? So we decided to proceed with that as well. And regarding the staking, it was not only a challenge for us to design and implement the interface itself and all this logic regarding what data and when it should be shown. It was quite a journey to basically build a data source using subquery tools, which is great, by the way, to basically create this data source, decentralized data source, which are able to fetch the data from the blockchain and provide to the mobile application itself. Because in Fearless Wallet, we don't have any servers, so we need to use ecosystem tools to provide useful features. So yeah, that's about the staking. Are there any questions so far before we will start a demo? Let me share the screen of my device. All right, so can you see the screen of iOS device now? Wonderful. So yeah, let's basically take a look on the staking analytics right now in the app. So for now, we can see that we have first the staking analytics widget on the main staking tab, right? So you can also minimize this Kusama network information if that's needed once you started to stake, right? And you have information regarding your stake in the common known widget. And you also have access now to the staking analytics widget. By default, we decided to provide information for last 7 days of staking and how and the value of the reward each day. We are still trying to understand the time period which would be convenient to show on this widget itself. Either like maybe it's better to show like 30 days, or maybe yeah, just 7 days would be enough. So we would be happy to hear from the community their thoughts. But let's go to the details of the staking analytics. We can see these 3 pages: rewards, stake, and validators. And we can see the chart with rewards themselves. So for 1 week, we can see the, again, bar chart. We can tap on the specific bar to understand the value, right? We can scroll for the history of all these rewards to understand when we received rewards, are there any gaps, and so on. And in the future, once we tap on the certain bar, the history below would be displayed accordingly. So we will display only history elements related to the selected time period and the bar itself. We can see the charts for the 1 month period. Now we have like a 30 bars here. We can see the differences here. And as you saw on the mockups, we are planning to add the horizontal line showing average reward, which should be super useful for the users to see, like average reward across the 1 month, for example. And once again, history adapts. So you can see all these entities are related to this last 30 days. So if I will scroll down, I will see last reward for July 27th, right? Now I can select 1 year, and in the future updates, I would be able to select like all time period, because now I believe there are some nominators who has history for more than 1 year on both networks, actually on Kusama and Polkadot. So we would be able to see the rewards as well for this. And what we can do here, once we select either all on or 1 year period, we can see this bars representing 1 month period. So if I will tap on the last one, I will see that this is just like an August, right, rewards, and the sum of these rewards are basically the Kusamas, which is once again pretty much cool. And we will also have this horizontal line, which basically says your average rewards, and you would be able to understand your staking performance across these periods, like average reward per month. What we are also planning to do is to add the 5th option here by selecting custom period. So for example, you can see that for this particular account, the rewards are pretty much different. So for the last 2 months, most likely the stake amount was the same, right? But before it was much less, which means that we cannot basically just put the average here. It would not be so useful. Let's proceed with the stake chart. It's pretty straightforward. It shows you your stake amount. Once again, you can see how it was changing for 1 month, for 1 year, right? You can also tap on a chart and see basically how it was changing, right? And you can see the fiat values themselves. And once again, below, you can find all events which basically affected your stake changes. So this particular account has all rewards as a restake option. So as soon as rewards going to this account, they're increasing the stake. So that's why we once again see rewards there. But also we should be able to see other events like, for example, stake more or unstake, and all of this, they will be displayed right here in this history. So I'm not sure that I would be able to basically find, oh no, you can see like stake more even here in the middle. So we basically can see that as well. And we can even see the details, like with precise date and precise block number, which we can see in the subscan and Polkascan. So yeah, that's basically the stake analytics, which we're going to improve within the time. And lastly, we have here a validators analytics with the rewards. So it's actually pretty cool because you basically can see all your validators with whom you were staking and the distribution percentage for all these validators, right? And we also can see are there any pending rewards or all rewards were paid for last like 84 errors, and like which validator brought you how many Kusama tokens we are staking, right? You can have access to all this analytics, which is once again pretty cool. It was to mention that we have developed this data source not only for the nominators, but also for the validators. So if you have the validator account, and by the way, it supports the Polkadot as well, right? Because I was showing you the Kusama account, and now we can see the Polkadot analytics as well. So let's wait for the loading. Or maybe you can just proceed to the details of analytics itself. That account is basically a validator. It's not being elected quite often, so you can see that as well. You can see that precisely on which dates it's being elected, and we can see all this rewards history. And we can basically switch to the 1 year period to get overall picture of rewards across like 1 year in terms of the monthly earnings, right? And again, all of these history elements are providing this data. And of course, we can see the stake information for this account, like how stake was changing across 1 month or even 1 year. We can once again tap and see the details of it, or even all the history elements which were affecting the stake. And you can notice that we also don't have the validators tab for the validators because, yeah, basically that account is validator themselves. So there are no information for it to be provided. So yeah, that's basically the staking analytics and how it's working. We are still improving things because you can see the differences between the mockups and the actual implementation. But most likely we would be able to release the staking analytics on iOS on the next week, which is great because I cannot recall the tool in the ecosystem yet, which provides you such opportunities to analyze your staking, basically. Okay, so are there any questions regarding the staking analytics? Or maybe you have some suggestions what feature would be useful to have in staking analytics for the either nominators or validators. And while we're waiting for the questions, I would like to also remind everyone that the crowd loans on Kusama have been started. So you can access to them using the Fearless wallet. All crowd loans are supported in Fearless wallet. You can basically participate in them, yeah, using your Kusama accounts. All right, so I guess that's it for staking analytics and crowd loans reminder. Let me switch to the slides. All right. And let's discuss the plans and priorities. So as I mentioned, we have this catch-up release for Android, right? With all these features like history, new design for your validators, countdowns, and guiding confirmation screens, as well as some fixes and minor improvements. And this release should come and be available like early next week in the Google Play. We'll make announcements in our Telegram and Element groups. Also, what we have planned for the next week is release on iOS with the staking analytics features. And as for multi-asset and new networks, for now, as we understand and based on what we have completed and what is left, it should take us from 4 to 6 weeks to have a new release with all these new networks integrated and ready to be used. So that's overall picture and design, sorry, not design, the release plan for the upcoming weeks. And yeah, as a reminder, since Crowdloan started, you can use Phyllis Wallet to participate in them. All right, I think that's it from my side. So are there any questions? And thank you for the feedback in the chat. Okay, so it seems that no questions so far. Anyways, feel free to provide your questions in our Telegram or Element groups, and as well as your suggestions and feedback to current features or the features which you would like to see in the Phyllis Wallet. We are always very happy to see the feedback from the community. And basically, yeah, that's it. Thank you so much that you have participated and joined this demo, and we will see you in next weeks. Have a good day. Bye.